Raider Nation, what's good? Jesse Merrick here. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Silver and Black Sports Network podcast. Today is a big day because we've got our first guest appearance on the show. Former Raiders linebacker and new Raiders radio analyst Kirk Morrison is hopping on the pod to break down what he has seen at practice. Obviously, you guys are familiar with Kirk. His mind for the game is really off the charts. He had offered up some great insights on the defense as a whole, how positionless football is really taking over the NFL. That's a real interesting concept. And he gave a really good analysis of what we can expect to see from the Raiders on offense as well. Real complimentary of Ashton Jeanty, like many people are. And then after that interview, I'll dive into some takeaways from practice today to close out the show. We have got some more interesting stuff to talk about with Jackson Powers-Johnson. He keeps getting shuffled around. We'll talk some Darnay Holmes and a little bit Geno and Jacoby. In the meantime, though, here's our conversation with our guy, Kirk Morrison. All right, Kirk, thanks for joining us, man, and welcome to Vegas. Obviously, this is a cool new role for you. Before we dive into your takeaways and everything like that, just tell me about, how this came about and how excited you are to be joining the Raiders now as a radio analyst.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it, Jesse. I mean, obviously, this is an opportunity that came, out of nowhere for me. It's something I dreamed about for a long, long time. Way back in my days as a fan. Hopefully, like thinking about, man, what if I was a broadcaster for the Raiders one day? And this is kind of around the time where you think that maybe you'll one day be a player. And so you kind of go through life just thinking about certain things. And I've always looked up at the booth with a great honor from Bill King when he covered the Raiders, right? This is one of the great voices of Raider football. And then, Greg Papa and just those guys and even Brent Musburger, like I've always followed it. And then when I retired in 2013, I took over as the color analyst for my alma mater for San Diego State football. And I did that for 4 years and kind of with the understanding like, man, ultimate, man, is to be the Raiders color analyst. And I've always, said there'd be a job that I would love to have. Now, would it ever come open? You never know, but definitely I would be interested. And obviously it came available to me, and I jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And look, I don't know you personally just yet. We just met, but obviously everything I hear about you, you're going to kill it in there. If you're anything like you were as a player, you're going to slide right into that role and be killing it. Obviously, Jason's a great guy to be working with. We're actually going to have him on the pod on
Yes.
Monday. Real good dude. But let's dive into it now, because you've been around the team now the last week or so here. What's your take kind of wholesale? We'll dive into more detail here, but wholesale, what have you seen out of practice from the group under Pete Carroll and company?
I mean, I just see energy. I just see an energy and a focus that, I've been to Raider training camps in the past, was there even last year. And you saw that the guys are always working hard. But I think this year it just seems like they're working hard with a purpose. This competition that Pete Carroll preaches, it is real. This isn't fake. This isn't some moniker that you try to get guys to work hard and buy in. Like they breathe and they talk. This is just all every day about competition, and no matter what you do, and you see that from the time they step onto the field until practice is over, and then even still, they're still competing. Competing about who the last one to leave or the first one to get into the facility in the morning. So that's my overall right now is just this competition and energy, talking to the guys. It just feels different.
Yeah, and I know that seems cliche to talk about because we've talked a lot about that too.
Right.
But like as a player, when you do have that from the top down, like how much of a difference does that
Yeah.
make every day when you're coming to the office? Because it's not always like that with every staff, right?
I think this it's even more now with Pete and just the way that his staff goes about it because we're in like the dog days of training camp. Like the first week,
Yeah.
all fun. It's great, right? Everybody's high fiving. Football is back. But you start to get into week two and week three, and you've been hitting the same guy for, how many for, I mean, for like 10 practices in a row. You guys start to get a little bit, antsy. You start to get a little perturbed a little bit, and it's like, man, I'm ready to start. I want to hit a different color jersey. But because Pete Carroll keeps preaching the competition aspect of it, I think guys realize that we're working hard for a reason. Like we're
Yeah.
competing against each other, but we're competing for a higher goal. We're competing to compete against the National Football League, 31 other teams. So I honestly think that that's the part that's not talked about enough. It could be cliche, oh, competition, but it's honestly just the competition of guys waking up, going to work, and being happy about going to work. Not like, oh, here we go again. I think it's they don't. You never know what the next day is going to bring in terms of just the way that Pete goes about getting the guys ready to go.
Yeah, hey, look, I mean, the people at home can relate. Like at times, when it's rough to go to work, like think about when you're happy with who you work for, how much of a difference it makes there.
Exactly.
Huge difference out on the field. But let's get out onto the field now. Obviously, you being a backer, we have to start with that group. We can't start anywhere else, obviously. So I'm curious for you, man. What have you seen at a linebacking core so far? Obviously, you guys got a Landon Roberts there. You got Devin White and Jermaine Pratt as the top three guys. What have they shown you?
Man, it's been fun to watch. Devin White, like Pete Carroll said the other day in his press conference, he's back. And that's not like Michael Jordan back in the day, man, but this dude is back. He's back playing and looking like the same guy that I, covered when he was at LSU playing linebacker, one of the best linebackers in the league. He had a great early start to his career and obviously has went through some challenges over the last couple years, but he looks the same way that we saw him coming out and leading, that defense of the Buccaneers to a Super Bowl not too long ago. So I love what Devin has shown. Jermaine Pratt, his versatility from playing all three linebacking positions. He's on the outside, the weak side. He can play the middle. I love his versatility. And obviously, Landon Roberts is the signal caller. He's become the captain of that defense. I know it's Max Crosby's team, but I feel like this new voice and this new leadership role has come from Landon Roberts. And then you bring, I think, Jamal Adams, who brings a specific skill set to this linebacking core. I love that what he's been able to show because I feel like he can be a piece that allows them to do some things differently into their personnel packages, especially what the opposing offenses will throw at you as well. And Tommy Eichenberg, can't forget him. He's still doing some things, and to me, he's going to have a role, I think, on this defense as well. And then, Lindenberg's the rookie, but you've got a good core group of linebackers that are competing, play in and play out. And what, going into the season was supposed to be an area that of weakness because the Raiders lose Divine Diablo and then obviously Robert Spillane. And yet, this may be one of the strengths of the team, the way that they've rebuilt this linebacking core.
Yeah, and you brought up Jamal Adams. He's definitely an interesting piece. I think a lot of people hear the name, they think like, oh, he's going to come and be a starter. But I think you said it right. Like, as a rotational player with certain packages, right. What does he bring to the table in that role as the will linebacker? Because that dude is explosive.
Yeah, so the will linebacker in today's NFL is really like a hybrid safety role, if you ask me. It's guys who play near the line of scrimmage, and that's where Jamal Adams plays. He plays off the ball. He can play on the line of scrimmage as a blitzing sort of outside safety / linebacker. Just his skill set now in what I call a positionless NFL. That's where we're going to, Jesse, like a positionless NFL, meaning you just put guys out there and play to play will dictate what role they play in the defense. Jeremy Chin is a starting safety for the Raiders. But yet, if you look at second down, he's a nickel. You look at third down, he's a free safety. Maybe first down, he may be a blitzer. So I love this positionless, Raiders defensive group in certain areas. And why is that? Only because they've got guys who are able to play multiple spots along the defense, and you never really have to change personnel. That's what I think Jamal Adams is going to bring when he has that opportunity to get on the field.
Yeah, what does that positionless style of play do to an offense? Because obviously I'd imagine that creates a ton of confusion of just trying to call out who the mic is or where guys are actually lining up.
Right. Yeah, it to me, it goes to where teams who want to run hurry up or no huddle or want to get into some bigger packages. I mean, I'll just look at the Raiders offense first before going back to the opposite side. When you look at the Raiders offense, you've got Brock Bowers, right, who's a tight end, but let's just call him, he's a pass catcher. And if you throw in Michael Mayer on there and Ian Thomas, who I'm seeing that, you're seeing what? You're seeing multiple guys who can play not only tight end ball, but they can be spread out and play, extended tight end or just pass catchers. So how does a defense stack up to it? A defense stacks up to it by putting guys who can cover. If you got guys who can cover, that's great. But then they've also got to stop the run when you get the tight ends in tight and they run the football. So that's where I think that Jamal Adams and this linebacking core, like I mentioned already, Jermaine Pratt, you've got guys who have the ability to run with these tight ends and pass coverage, but be able to still be stout enough in the run game And now that takes the offense mindset away that, oh, we can just put any formation or any personnel grouping and we can do what we want to. I think the Raiders defense now can dictate how offenses can run their offense depending on the personnel grouping.
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Like, it is so much turned into a matchup game. And I think we saw tight ends probably be the first iteration of that positionless type player. Now the defense is really catching up. But you mentioned some of the guys on offense. Brock obviously is one of those dudes that can do a lot. You've tackled many running backs in your day. Talk to us about Ashton Jeanty and what you've seen out of him so far.
I've had a chance to see him for a long time. I broadcasted his first game in college when he was at Boise State, going against Oregon State, and his head coach at the time, Andy Avalos, is a buddy of mine, and he told me, he said, "Man, this kid Genty is the real deal." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Man, he's probably maybe will go down possibly as one of the best backs we've ever had here." I'm saying, wait. So you're telling me Jay Ajayi and Alexander Madison and all the great backs? I mean, Doug Martin. I mean, there's been some really
Yeah.
good backs that have played at Boise State. And he said, "Kirk, he's going to be better than all of them." And I'm like, no way. And here we are, 3 years later after his college career, and he's the first running back taken in the NFL draft, and he's just got everything. He's the total package. He's a good downhill runner, but he's also a guy that can run outside the tackles, between the tackles. I've been more impressed, Jesse, though. One thing I'm really more impressed is he's caught the football really well in
Yeah.
training camp. I don't think we saw that in his bag a lot at Boise because it was always, handoffs and screen passes, but he's been a factor in this passing game. And Geno Smith has found him short on the outside, underneath, wheel routes. Like, to me, that's scary because you got to focus on wherever he lines up at, man. That's been huge. I'm a big fan. I was always a big fan, but just watching the way that he operates out in training camp, this dude, I think, is going to be one of the special ones.
Yeah, no, he's definitely different. You talk about positionless players. He's a guy we have seen line up in a lot of different ways and is definitely going to be a weapon of the passing attack. We did see it a bit in 2023 for him. I know he led the country in receiving his backs, when he was at Boise, and he's definitely going to put that on display. Kind of wholesale, too, though. Like, from what you've been able to watch of Chip Kelly's offense, we've seen them utilize running backs a lot in the passing game. What sticks out to you the most about Chip and his scheme and what he could do here?
I think just the way that he's getting guys in space. That's
Yeah.
the one thing that I love about this scheme is that he finds ways to get guys to have a one-on-one. And if you get that one-on-one and you make that guy miss, it turns what could be a minimal game into a big game, a big explosive play. And that's what I think the Raiders offense didn't have enough of over the last couple of years. Those explosive plays that made drives 2, 3, or 4 plays rather than always having to go 8, 9, 10 plus play drives. That's what I think that his offense presents, right? It presents ways to get guys in space. Jacoby Myers, we're seeing Dante Thornton, we're seeing multiple guys just have an area, whether it's an in cut or in breaking route. And I went back and I watched a lot of the Ohio State film from past seasons, or from this past season, I should say. And, how did Chip, isolate and get a lot of those players for Ohio State? How did you get them the football? And I'm watching them saying, wow. I mean, you turn on the Oregon game of in the Rose Bowl, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just envisioning Jacoby Myers running a route that Jeremiah Smith is running, or Emeka Ibuka. Is that Dante Thornton, right? Or Quinshawn Junkins? Is that obviously Ashton Jeanty, or even vice versa, Travion Henderson? Is that Raheem Mostert? So I'm putting Raider players in the pieces of what I saw the offense look like for Ohio State last year, and throwing in a couple of tight ends as well. Man, this could be special, because the
Yeah.
creativity is there. I think, Jesse. I think we haven't seen the Raiders be offensively creative in a while, to where
Yeah.
you plays run and you look at each other and say, "Wait, what was that? Did you see that?" Like, I think that's what we may be getting to.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. The creativity is going to be off the charts. And Dante Thornton had a similar thing where he got to watch Chip's offense beat his Tennessee Vols, and he was like, man, now
Right.
after being drafted by the Raiders and seeing that they hired Chip, he's like, I can't wait to see myself in this offense after what they did to Tennessee. I want to get your take on Geno, too. What does he present as a quarterback, the challenges of defending someone like him?
Geno's a grown up.
Yeah.
This is a veteran quarterback in this league. and he brings stability to a position that hasn't had that stability since, Derek Carr was released. I think what I see from Geno is that he's knows when to make the plays that are available to him. The arm
Hmm.
has never been a question. I love his arm. He can make all the throws. He can deep, short, intermediate. I think one thing that we just don't talk enough about it, and I've seen it a couple times at practice, and I never forget it. Like I said, I've covered the Rams for the last 9 previous years. So seeing Geno the last 3 years as the starting quarterback for Seattle, I know what he can do, and
Yeah.
people don't talk enough about his legs. He's an absolute runner. Yes, he is a runner, people. He had over 200, I think, 50 yards last year. And I'm like, the last Raiders quarterback to do that was, I think, like Rich Gannon. I don't really count Terrell Pryor. Terrell Pryor wasn't really, he wasn't
Yeah,
really a
yeah.
quarterback. He was a wide receiver. But, Rich Gannon, I think, rushed for like 500 yards one year as a quarterback. The Raiders just have never had that quarterback that can need a tough yard, go get it. And Geno's one of those, oh, I forgot he was fast. I forgot he can get out of the pocket kind of guys. I think everything else is, he knows how to distribute the football. He's done it at a high level. And I think the Raiders really got a good one. I know some people talk, well, he threw this many interceptions last year. Like, he had a new offensive coordinator, no run game whatsoever, pretty much. I mean, multiple backs that were injured and banged up. I love the position that he's in now, and I love how he's gravitated to Chip Kelly's offense, to where I think he's going to be able to do a lot in terms of getting the ball to a lot of key players.
Yeah, and two, go back and watch the tape of the Seahawks. A lot of those picks were
Yes,
in interesting times when you gotta push it, you gotta stretch. So like
right.
I think people are kind of overreacting to that as well when you actually go back and look at the tape. Last one from me, Kirk. You guys are all of us are going to the stadium tomorrow for a practice over at Allegiant,
Yes.
kind of a mock game. What are you looking forward to see out of that and the excitement of getting into Allegiant, man?
Yeah, I think for me, just the seeing the guys for the first time at Allegiant, really, that's to me what it's all about. Seeing them in the Raider colors and the fans getting a chance to see them. I've always said, what's the difference between a game and a practice? Well, practice you wear the same jersey every day, but game day you get to wear that game jersey. That's a different jersey. That's not the mesh jersey you get at practice. This is the real deal. So I know it's a mock game. They'll probably still have their practice jerseys on, but it's just for me, I go back to the former player in me, getting an opportunity to go through what my routine is going to be. That first drive into the stadium, getting off the bus, where am I going to be at in the locker room? Where's the equipment room? To be honest, a lot of these guys haven't been to the stadium yet, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. Like they've only known the facility over in Henderson, but they haven't been to the stadium. So you want guys to see it, walk into it, go through the tunnel, start to envision it. And I think for the fans, I'm excited for them to see all these players come out there. A lot of fans get a chance to see Ashton Jeanty for the first time. So I think we're gonna have a big turnout, big crowd over at the stadium. So I'm excited to be there as well, covering it, seeing some things. But the competition is heating up, Jesse, right, at a lot of spots, right? Wide receiver, running back, offensive line. Obviously, the defensive line is going to have a heavy rotation now that
Big
some
time.
guys are going to have to step up with the departure of Christian Wilkins. We've talked about the linebackers already, and we haven't even got to, who's going to be playing cornerback for the
Yeah.
Raiders. So, man, to me, all that tells me is one thing, and I tweeted out a little bit earlier at Kirk Morrison was this team's got some depth. I don't know if I could have said that 3 or 4 years ago, but today, you know, 1st of August, this team actually has some depth to a point where you're like, when they make some cuts, there's going to be some good football players that the Raiders are going to have to turn away, and it's a good thing to have to make
Yeah.
those tough decisions.
No, it definitely is. At the end of the day, you want to build a roster that's going to force you to make those tough decisions. That's for sure. Tough decision was not bringing you on today, though, man. You killed it. I know Raider Nation is looking forward to hearing your voice on the mic, on the radio, and everything. Thanks again
Yes,
for your
sir.
time, man, and can't wait to hear you up there with Jason.
All good, man. I appreciate the time, Jesse. Anytime. Heading to the pool now, man. It's 100 degrees out. We're going to get in the pool.
I feel you there, man. Go get it. Hey, shout out to Kirk. He is so good, and I can't wait till you guys get a chance to hear him on the call this year. Good stuff from him. We have actually got more guests lined up for the pod next week. We'll be chopping it up with Kirk's co-host, Jason Horowitz, on Monday. He's another great dude who always brings a real interesting perspective. And on Tuesday, we're bringing my guy, Willie G. Ramirez, onto the pod. He's a longtime Las Vegas sports writer who's really seen it all in town here. He wrote a really cool feature on Jonah Laulu, who is actually in the lead for that 3-tech spot. So we're going to catch up with him on that and really dive into the story and what he's seen at practice as well. Willie is an awesome dude. In the meantime, though, let's get to some quick things that we saw here at practice today. JPJ was on the second team working at guard. We've seen him get shuffled around a lot. Again, we talked about the fact that many of us thought he was sharpied in as the starter at center. That's very clearly not the case. So then he moves over to guard yesterday, and we think, okay, now he's sharpied in as the right guard. Well, that's not the case. Today, Alex Kappa was working with the ones next to Jordan Meredith, who was working at center. Obviously, they signed Alex Kappa in the offseason. That was a 2-year deal, $11 million for him, so he's getting paid, and they want to give him a shot. He's a John Spytek guy, obviously has some familiarity with him from his time in Tampa, so they're really battling. JPJ in particular is kind of getting moved around, which is an interesting development. I definitely didn't see that coming. When we talked with Max, we talked with Jackson, and everybody, they all talked about how much work he put in the offseason. He was approaching things the right way. It was very clear that he was kind of emerging as, or at least seemed like emerging as a leader, and not to say that he's not going to be, but when you're in the middle of a battle, who knows? The spot's up for grabs. So very interesting to see the way that they have been using him lately. I personally don't understand it. I think he's their best interior offensive lineman, but at the end of the day, the cream will rise to the top in that competition. So if Jackson does his job, he'll end up in that spot, either at center or probably more likely now at right guard, because as we talked about yesterday in the pod, I think that they think, okay, we can get really good center play out of Jordan Meredith, whereas Jackson Powers-Johnson has a lot of upside as a guard. Today, I did watch JPJ a bit in one-on-ones when they were working him against the D-line, and he had a couple reps against Max, and usually they put that good on good, and he was getting those reps with Max, and he looked really solid. They weren't wearing pads today, so take that with what you will, but he did a really great job with his footwork, staying in front of Max. Max obviously prevents so many different problems with his length and the way he's able to kind of like long arm people, and Jackson did an awesome job working the feet to stay in front of him and all that stuff. So I was impressed with what I saw today, and again, we're just going to be continuing to watch that battle to see how it plays out. Now, on the defensive side of things, the nickel packages have been interesting, and we can talk about this because it's out there. Many people have talked about it. Jeremy Chin is a chess piece. He moves all over the place. You even heard Kirk Morrison talk about the fact that sometimes he'll be lined up as a safety. Sometimes he'll be in the box as a linebacker. More often than not, when they go to nickel, he'll be the nickel. I mean, he is all over the place. And so we've seen that look more often than not. But today, we saw Darnay Holmes getting a lot more work with them in the slot, in the nickel, with the ones. And that was when Chin was lined up as a backer. So really interesting there. Darnay Holmes obviously has had some success in the slot. Real curious to see how that develops as we move forward. But he played pretty well, had a couple nice pass breakups today. So taking advantage of the opportunity that he's been given. But having said that, I think we probably will see the role where Chin is more of that nickel when they do go to the nickel package. When Chin will be playing in the slot, I believe more often than not in those situations. And they'll have Lonnie Johnson Jr. back, who we talked to today. And I talked about Adam Butler being a guy that like called his shot, said he was tired about the situation that he was in. He wanted a big payday. He wanted to be able to, call a place home. And Lonnie Johnson Jr. said the same thing. Like he's like, look, I got a family. I got 4 kids. I'm tired of moving people around every year. And he basically said that he wants to show this staff and he wants to show John Spytek and company that he deserves to be in Vegas for the long haul. And he said he again is tired of moving, wants to stay here and wants to be a Raider for life. He wants to retire a Raider. So I always respect it when guys, call their shots and go out and do it. So he's a guy I'm going to be watching as he's going to get some more opportunities and what he does with it to possibly prove to them that he can be a guy that deserves a longer-term contract to stick around. Those are the ones it's like, look, no matter who you are, you can't help but root for a guy like that that's trying to change a situation. So really excited to see what he does going forward, with the team. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And also on offense, Geno and Jacoby, we've talked about that connection a lot. Well, the two of them have been on it multiple times throughout practice. Jacoby's one of those real reliable receivers. It's very clear that Geno trusts him in a lot of situations. Jacoby moves all over the place. Today in particular, Geno looked off a safety when they were in the red zone, and he threaded the needle to Jacoby for a touchdown on a post. Beautiful throw. One of those ones that the defenders have talked about where he just sometimes makes some of those wow throws, and there's nothing you can do about it. That was definitely one of them. And I'm interested to watch, the duo of Jacoby and Geno kind of working together because, again, I think they're going to use Jacoby in a lot of different ways. And it's very clear that he has a lot of trust in Jacoby. But with that, guys, that's going to do it for today's show. We will be back out there for practice on Saturday. This one is over at Allegiant Stadium. Yeah, they're doing a mock game, and fans are welcome. Those ones are always fun at Allegiant. The energy is always through the roof. Now, if you do want to go, you just have to buy tickets for $5 if you want to attend. And I believe that $5 actually goes directly to the Raiders Foundation charity. So it is also like for a good cause too. They're not just like trying to ream you guys and stuff, but they do have more info available on Raiders.com. So definitely check that out if you're interested in going. Now, depending on when you're listening to this, they may or may not still have tickets available. They usually limit how many they do have available. So whenever you're listening to this, get on it quick because they could be gone. But that is going to make for a fun podcast. We are still waiting on the gear to be able to do the podcast remotely outside of the studio. So I'll be back in here on Saturday in the studio to kind of break all that down to wrap it up from Allegiant Stadium. But soon we will be able to take the podcast on the road. We're planning to travel for some road games as well. So that'll be kind of cool to be able to, do things out on location, whether it's at Allegiant or different things like that, throughout the year and stuff. So I'm excited to kind of work with that gear and see what we can do remotely. Also, guys, if you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, head to silverandblacksportsnetwork.com and subscribe to get that delivered right to your inbox every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. That really is the best way that you can support us and our growth, obviously, by doing that. And also, again, making sure that you subscribe to this podcast wherever you guys are listening to us. And if you did like what you heard, please, please, please hit us with a 5-star review and leave a comment as well. You guys really have no idea how much that stuff helps. And it does take like 2 seconds to do. So if you spent the time to actually listen to this much of the podcast, you got like 2 seconds to do it, right? I appreciate you guys. Seriously, I say that, kidding because like the comments have already been so awesome. You guys have been awesome. You guys have been killer. Like there's no way around it. So I'm super appreciative of that and the support. So please do keep all that coming as we continue to kind of grow this thing. And again, as I always say, make sure you tell your friends because we do want to grow this brand and make this the trusted source for all Raiders fans. And with your help, we can make that happen. We can get it to everybody. We just got to let people know what we're doing right now. It's still early on for us. So there's a lot of Raiders fans that don't know what we're doing. So again, if you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're seeing, share it with your friends. Push it along to all of them. And we'll also be doing some Q&A podcasts soon in the future as well. If you want to submit some of those questions, again, go to silverandblacksportsnetwork.com and subscribe to our newsletter. That's where you can hit us on there. If you're a premium member, you will have the ability to send in questions. We'll start sending out those forms soon. So subscribe, send in the questions. And look, just to be completely honest with you guys, I would love to answer everyone's questions on Twitter. But honestly, there's just so many of them throughout the day. We're at practice. We're running around. We're doing social media. There's a lot of things going on. We have a small team. So, it really is just the best way in order for us to be able to get your guys' questions and knock them all out in one sitting and provide you some really good insight from what we're seeing out there at practice, at the games, talking to players, all that stuff. And I think it'll be fun because I do want to answer you guys' questions. Again, it's just we're flooded with them on all the different social channels. So it's really hard to get to all of them. If we can organize them in one spot, if you subscribe, then that's where, boom, there's a nice little funnel to where I can answer those questions and give you guys what you're looking for. But again, guys, thanks for watching. We do appreciate you. Thanks for listening as well, wherever you guys are taking us in. And we will catch you guys on Saturday after the Allegiant Stadium practice. I can't wait for that.